Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I've got another Marvel countdown video for you. I've got 4 films in this list. We've got Endgame coming out next week now, so we're getting very close. It's getting very exciting. There's going to be spoilers, obviously, as I've said in all the previous videos. So if you've not seen these films yet, you want to stay spoiler free, maybe skip them and come back after. Or if not, they've been out for a while, you probably have seen them by now already. Anyway, so moving on to my first film in the list, which is... So the first film in this one is Black Panther. This came out just before the Infinity War, so the film is still relatively new, still relatively fresh. I did really enjoy this film. This film had a massive cultural impact, being not only, it wasn't the first one to have a black superhero lead, but probably the first one to have a majority black cast. There's only kind of a few non-black actors in this film. So culturally, this film has a massive impact, which I think helps it because it helps its enjoyment and opens up the world of comic book films to audiences that maybe wasn't that interested in it to start off with. But I think the cultural impact and the sort of massiveness of that kind of hinders the film a little bit, because I saw it quite late. I didn't see it in its opening weekend like I usually do with the Marvel films. I saw it a little bit late. So I had all the hype of how great it was, this, that, and it's a good film, I'm not saying it isn't, but I think the cultural impact of it overshadows the quality of the film a little bit. So I was kind of like, oh, it was good, but it wasn't this amazing set piece film that I thought it was going to be. But I still enjoyed it, there's still a lot to like in it. Again, Marvel's casting across the board is pretty good, this being no exception. Chadwick Boseman as the Black Panther was great. All the other cast, Michael B. Jordan, who plays Killmonger, was amazing. One of the few really standout villains who, again, similar to Thanos and a few other characters, that he has a justifiable means for what he's doing. Maybe not in the best way he's doing it, but obviously the film, his main sort of crux is obviously black people have been kind of mistreated over the years, and obviously we all know things about slavery, but what was, in this fictional world, what was Wakanda doing to help that? Obviously Wakanda has these amazing resources, but they've kept themselves hidden. Why weren't they out there helping and reaching out and trying to bring peace to what was a bad situation? And he's got justifiable means for that. Again, he goes about it maybe the wrong way, but still, he got great motivation. Andy Serkis, who plays Lucidi's Claw, which is kind of really a main Black Panther villain from the comics, was great as well. Has some really great funny lines, and I really hope that he brings out this rap album that they teased in the film. That would just be hilarious to see. So the other sort of minus point I think on the film is the really over reliance on the vibraniums, because they're the vibranium technology. This meteorite landed in Wakanda, that's what gives them all these big powers and resources. But it seems that it can do anything that the film wants it to do, like just this really convenient plot point. Oh, it can build the suits. Oh, it can build the shield. Oh, they can power this for it. Just seemed a bit like, what can't vibranium do? So it just seemed a bit over reliance on it. So I would have liked to see more of just a hone of, you can just build stuff out of it. You can't make technology and holograms from it. It just seemed a bit overused. And as culturally impacting the film is, it does at the very end, the last sort of third, bleed into this usual comic book thing where you've got two of that. The villain is just a bad version of the hero, like they're both in Black Panther suits, they're fighting each other, and it's just, and the CGI rhinos look terrible. It's just a big battle thing. So it kind of descends into that, the last third, but the two first things are great. So I do enjoy Black Panther. It is a good film. I do think the cultural impact is overshadowed a little bit over the quality of the film, but it's still definitely something I would recommend watching and seeing, because it is a different world we've seen already. Anyway, moving on to our next film, which is... So next on the list is Thor, the original Thor movie, which first introduces Chris Hemsworth and Loki and Odin and all those characters. First real move into kind of space and other worlds, obviously, because previous to this we'd only really had Iron Man, the 2 Iron Man films, and the Incredible Hulk. So giving us Asgard and what else goes on in the universe was really good to see. And again, as I said before, Marvel's casting on point. Chris Hemsworth as Thor nails it. He's the perfect choice. I could not see anybody else in that role. Tom Hiddleston as Loki, the same. Even Anthony Hopkins as Odin, just nailed on, perfect. You couldn't imagine anybody else in those roles, especially now because they've been doing it for so long. Again, the plus points of the film, casting's great. I do love obviously bouncing around the ones. We go to Jotunheim, we see Asgard, we go to see all these places, and I like Thor's. It was that sort of fish out of water story that we've seen in a lot of other films. But I liked his journey, his growth, where he was this very arrogant, I can do what I like, I'm the future king of Asgard, winks, nods at the camera, all that sort of stuff. But then as the film, he was humbled by Odin casting him out, and then he has to learn to kind of accept that there are other people around him. He needs to do best what's for people, not for himself, which I think was a really good story, and I think he grew into that really well. So I like that story of it. Obviously, when he first gets the hammer and he can't lift it, it's like, oh, why can't I lift it? Because he's not trying to do it for the right purposes. So once he learns that, he then becomes Thor as we know him. Loki as well was a great villain. He kind of grew into his villainy. Like originally, he kind of just wanted to spoil Thor's ceremony by letting the frost giants into Asgard's vault, but eventually he learns who he is, and then he's like, well, I don't want to do this. And he grows into his villain, which is really, really good to see. Usually they're just bad. They got their plan for the outset and they want to do it. He's just like, no, I now know this information, I'll just go further forward. Some of the bad points for the film, I didn't really like the side characters around. Well, apart from Eric Selvig, who's the kind of the main doctor, he was good, but the romance between him and Natalie Portman's character is bland. It's not really there. I think they just threw her in because the film doesn't really have many famous faces in it, apart from Anthony Hopkins, who isn't in it very much. So they put her in to kind of be that face of, oh look, this is a famous person that you know. And Kat Dennings, as I said, in Thor 2 she's really annoying. This film she's annoying, she has some funny lines and she's tolerable. In that Thor 2 she's really annoying. So this is kind of the start of it, and it's still a bit grating, especially you go rewatch it, you're like, oh, because I only remember her in Thor 2 and it just annoys me. And I think he's on Earth a little bit too long. I would like to see more of him in the outfit with the hammer, smashing up stuff, flying around. He's on Earth for a very long time, and so you don't get a lot of Thor in his full garb than you would do in previous films, or in future films rather. So I would like to see more of Thor, but overall it's a really good story. Really enjoyed it. It's very funny in places as well. For his interactions of the human world, like he's not, I like because they don't play him like an idiot, they just play him as naive, which is really funny, especially when he smashes the cup and says he wants another and he wants a horse and he goes into the pet shop. It's great, it's good fun, definitely worth a watch, 100% recommend it. Anyway, so moving on to the next film, which is, so he's one of like the greatest surgeons of all time, gets in a bad accident, loses the use of his hands, and then tries to fix them, but then eventually falls into this ancient world of wizards and sorcerers and becomes Doctor Strange from that way. Again, plus points, casting is great. The effects in this film are amazing. The imagination of going to all these other realms and using different dimensions, and the special effects around how not just Doctor Strange but all the other characters use their powers is really good. It's really interesting to see. I actually saw this in IMAX in 3D, so it looked amazing. Mordo was really good. He's kind of really one of Doctor Strange's main villains, but they don't use him at the start. They kind of build him up, showing why he would dislike Doctor Strange, which I think is really clever, so I look forward to seeing that in a sequel. Some of the casting, Caecilius, who is kind of the main villain of the film, wasn't that great. I think they used Mads Mikkelsen, and I think he's a little bit underused. He seemed, again, Marvel unfortunately in this one fell into their usual sort of, the villain's just there because we want to build up the hero, he's just there as a foil point. And the ancient one as well, played by Tilda Swinton. There was a lot of controversy when this came out because in the comic books the ancient one is a small Asian man. In this film it's played by a white female. Now the story of the ancient one I think can be anybody, like it doesn't have to be stereotypically this Asian man, but I think the casting, as much as she does a good job in the film, could have been handled a little bit better. I think you could have put maybe an Asian actor. If you want an Asian woman, would have been fine. So there's a little controversy. I would like to see maybe somebody else. Strange is back and forth with Wong, is really good as well. There's some really good funny moments between those two, especially when he's trying to teach him like who Beyonce is and he doesn't know. It's kind of funny. Yeah, again, there's a lot. What I didn't really get in this film is how long Doctor Strange has been learning the magic, because he seems to turn up, has one scene when he kind of struggles with it, next scene he's amazing at it, like he's doing all these really advanced spells. Now because Doctor Strange doesn't really tie into anything early, you could have kind of set the first part of it when he has the accident maybe 4 or 5 years before it moves on to show he's been training this for 5 years. They don't really, it kind of seems he's been there like a month, because when he sees Rachel McAdams' character a little bit later on in the film, she's like, oh, you've been gone. Like, he's not been missing for years, he's been missing for a month, or like, oh, I haven't spoken to him in a week. So it seems that either he's gripped it really quickly, or he's been there for years and we've not really been telling that. So it would have been interesting, nicer to know how long he's been doing this sort of training. The end battle with Dormammu, which was really good. I liked the sort of trickery. Like, it wasn't this big sort of epic fight. It was more just a trick of the mind. Like, he uses how smart he is rather than his power to kind of loop the time to basically get him to go away, or you're just going to be stuck in this loop over and over again. So I thought that was kind of clever. So yeah, Doctor Strange, I think, is an essential thing to watch if you're going to, before you see Endgame, probably before you see, Infinity War, because if he just turns up, his power's a little bit undefined. Like I said, where did he learn all this stuff? So it's an essential viewing, as well as you get the time stone as well. So again, highly recommend Doctor Strange. Definitely worth a watch. Visually as well, it is stunning. So moving on to the next film on the list, which is... So the next film is Iron Man 1, the kickoff to all the MCU as we know it today. Released in 2008, and without this film we wouldn't get the franchise we know today. This is the first one to get released. This film kind of sets everything up in terms of its style, its tone, its humour, everything really. So this film we have a lot to thankful for, but just because how important it is, I don't think it needs to be in the top 3 or 4, and I'll explain why. The film is very good. We wouldn't get the franchise if it wasn't. Again, the tone and sort of the way they use the humour is on point. The little quippy little lines and stuff like that, as we established kind of the Marvel humour as we've gone on, is great. Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man is maybe the perfect casting of any comic book film of all time, with a few exceptions. It's like I say, arguably. Again, if you was going to build a Mount Rushmore of perfect comic book casting, he would definitely be on that wall. The rest of the cast is great, minus one. I'll get to that. So we've got Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts. She's really good. She's a really good supportive role to Tony Stark. We get Jeff Bridges as Obadiah Stane, who's the villain, the only man to maybe look menacing on a Segway. If you've seen the film, you know the scene I'm talking about. He was really good because it's hard now, because going back on it, when you watch it, there's been a lot of times in MCU films where we've had a bad version of the hero. They kind of just collide. And they do that in this, but it's because it's the first time, and when I think back to when I saw it for the first time, I really enjoyed it. Obviously, it's a bit of a trope now, you've seen it 100 times, so it's just a bit blasé. But at the time, it was really good. But some of the action is a bit lacking in this film. I think it's kind of its main drawback. There's only one real Iron Man set piece when he's in the full suit, in its full glory, when he fights the tanks, and when he goes to the Middle East to kind of stop terrorists. Possibly a war crime, but never mind about that. We get a lot of him obviously building different versions of the suits and tweaking it and adjusting it, and then we get that scene, and then we get the scene at the end where he fights the Ironmonger, but the suit's kind of depowered because he's on a different arc reactor, so it's not quite working as well. So I would like to have seen a little bit more action in the full suit, but I understand it's establishing character, it's building the world, so it needs to kind of build up to those moments, but maybe one or two more would have been nice to see. And we get Terrence Howard as Cody Rhodes, who I think is the weak link in the cast. Again, he gets eventually changed by Don Cheadle, who takes over the role as War Machine in the sequels and the eventual Avengers movies. So it would have been nice to have Don Cheadle in this, so he's the same actor the whole way through. But Terrence Howard, he didn't quite buy it. He's sort of back and forth with Tony. He was good, but he wasn't as good as what Don Cheadle has with Robert Downey Jr. Also, we get the Samuel Jackson, Nick Fury end credits little snippet with the first kind of end credit scene, which just again establishes everything that the Marvel films do now with their post credit scenes, teasing the Avengers. I'm sure when they were making this, when they kind of threw that in there, I'm sure they didn't think it would grow to what it is now, which is huge. So it's nice to go back and see that, and you're thinking, we now get obviously Endgame, which is coming up, which is maybe the biggest film of all time. Anyway, so definitely Iron Man is definitely very important, definitely worth a watch. Thanks very much for watching this video. I'll catch you next time. Bye.